about projectile motion. Let us solve a problem related to projectile motion. Okay. We studied the equations of a projectile motion. Now we want to use those equations to solve a problem. Okay. So, okay, let's look at 4.6. This is page number 68. Okay. Page number 68, and in this case you have a case in which we have an aeroplane again which is covering a projectile motion. So, let us assume that this aeroplane started with an initial velocity v0. So, the initial velocity is, let us read the statement, right. So, a rescue plane flies at 198 kilometers per hour and a constant height h is equal to 500 meter towards a point directly over a victim. So, where a rescue capsule is to land. What should be the angle phi of the pilot's line of sight to the victim when the capsule release is made? So, what is given? This height is 500 meters. Also we have the V0. V0 is equal to how much? 198 kilometers per hour, right? And 198 kilometers per hour, should we use it as it is? No, because as we studied in the first chapter, it is very important to use the same units. If all the units were kilometers and hours, it was fine to calculate in kilometers per hour. But now we see that some of them are in meters and some of them are in kilometers, then we have to bring them to the same units. So, the standard is the SI system. So, therefore, kilometers per hour will have to be changed to meter per second, although they have done it for you, but if it is a question that is given to you, you will have to do it yourself. But this is the first thing, one of the first things that you do after the statement, you know, like we did in the previous classes. First you read the statement and you look at the units and you see if there is any unit that needs to be changed. Okay? And when you have all the units in the same system, then you can go forward. Is that clear? So, please pay attention to the units throughout the course. It was not just for chapter 1. The reason we did it in chapter 1 was to prepare you for the rest of the course, and of course for the lab as well. Okay. So, every time pay attention to the units. As you remember, just a little while ago in the last problem we were doing on circular motion, the units asked there were different, right, they were in terms of g. So, that is why we had to make a conversion in the last step. So, even though you solved the problem correctly, if you did not change it to the correct units, your answer will be wrong and your problem you will lose marks, of course, right. Okay. So, in this case V0 is equal to V0, the direction of the initial velocity is like this, right, because the plane starts in the horizontal direction, but then projectile motion brings it in a curved path, right. Okay. So, this was equal to 5 meter per second, 55 meter per second, right. Okay. Now, we have to find the angle phi. So, there is someone here who needs help and this is where the pilot is trying to go. So, the pilot will be aiming for this and the angle here will then be phi. So, how will we find phi? This distance is equal to x. This distance is equal to x, okay. This distance is equal to h. This is equal to phi. Which formula? Trigonometry, we talked about trigonometry in the previous class, right. So, which formula, if you have x and h and you want to find phi, which trigonometric ratio can you use? You can use the trigonometric ratio for tangent, right? Because tangent is equal to, tangent phi is equal to what? Opposite side over, what do you call it? Opposite side or height bhi kehte hain, yeah, over adjacent side. Remember? Acha, this was our example of a right angle triangle, है ना? If this is a right angle, if this is phi, तो फिर कैसे होगा? This is the opposite side and this is the adjacent side. समझ आ रही है ना इस बात? Although आप उसको base and height भी कहते हो, but I told you I prefer to use opposite side and adjacent side because if your triangle rotates, right, and changes its direction, sometimes you get confused by which one is the height and which one is not the base, right? So it's easier to understand, I think, if you use the terms opposite side and adjacent side. Opposite side means the side opposite to the angle. Okay, so a right angle triangle is a triangle in which one angle is the 90 degrees. So this is fixed. In this case, this is 90 degrees. Okay. Now the second thing is the angle that you are required to find. This is the one. Sometimes it's represented by phi, sometimes it's represented by theta. But anyway, that's this in this case is here. Dekha, the triangle has been rotated. Now the side opposite to phi is x and the side adjacent to, adjacent means साथ वाला, the side adjacent to phi is h. So this will help us to write this. Opposite side is x and adjacent side is h. So tangent phi is equal to x over h. I think this helps understand it rather than base and height, है ना? इसमें उसको height उसने दूसरी side को कह दिया हुआ है, ठीक है ना? You understand what I'm saying? Okay. नॉर्मली जो आप पढ़ते हो कई बुक्स में लिखा भी होता है, दिस इज कॉल्ड द हाइट एंड दिस इज कॉल्ड द बेस. बट अगेन समटाइम्स दिस बिकम्स कंफ्यूजिंग, लाइक इन दिस एग्जाम्पल. ओके, इट बिकम्स कंफ्यूजिंग बिकॉज अकॉर्डिंग टू द फिजिकल प्रॉब्लम दिस इज द हाइट, है ना, क्योंकि ज़मीन के ऊपर नॉर्मली जो चीज़ हो हम उसको हाइट कहते हैं, राइट? But according to the mathematical formula that we have studied, the trigonometric ratios, the right angle triangle, this will not be the height. So I think it's better to use opposite side and adjacent side. The concept remains the same. ठीक हो गया? Okay, so this was the first step. We can find phi by taking the inverse of this. And remember, you should have your calculators with the scientific functions, right? And you should also know how to use it. इसको घर में practice करें use करना, ताकि आप you don't panic in an exam or something. Okay, get comfortable with your calculators and also practice using it, solving your problems. Rather than, don't go to Google, please. Sometimes Google makes us dumb. We stop thinking when we are using Google. Although you might get the answer, but then you will not understand how that answer was achieved. We want you to go through the process of learning how to do it yourself. Okay? But then you can say, when we have Google, why do we have to do it? No. You cannot. Even if you're driving a car, you cannot rely on Google. You have to use your own mental capacity, right, in order to learn the process of doing it and then understand the concepts behind it. You might not understand what Google did and what was the formula and what was the method. You just get the answer. So that will not help you as a student, also in life, right? Okay. Now, we have to find the angle phi, and in order to find the angle phi, this is the formula we are going to use, and you can substitute the values and you can find it. ठीक हो गया? Is that okay? Okay. लेकिन एक और बात है अब यहाँ पे, we have h, we don't have x. ठीक है ना? इस फॉर्मूला में we don't have x. Now we have to find x. Now how will we find x? In order to find x, go to the article on projectile motion and see how we can find x. x कैसे निकलेगा? What's the formula you can use to find x? What's the formula you can use to find x? Okay, right. Okay, यहाँ पे देखो, इधर आओ, पेज नंबर, दिस इज पेज नंबर 66. Okay, please look at page number 66. There you have the topic of projectile motion. Okay, so please look at the first equation in projectile motion. Okay, there you can get an explanation for this. Okay, there you have x minus x naught is equal to v naught xt. मतलब I am explaining वो formula कहाँ से आया और कैसे आया. Okay, so we know that x minus x naught means the horizontal component of the velocity. V naught was the velocity, x minus x naught is the horizontal component of this velocity, right? But we know the velocity is distance divided by displacement divided by time. So therefore x minus x naught divided by t the time will give you v naught x. Is that clear? ये पेज पे आप देख रहे हो ना, this is equation 4.21. So यहाँ पे if you put the value of v naught x, like we know the x component of a vector is equal to the cosine function of that angle. So therefore you get cos phi. Okay, so now you understand how we got equation 4.28. हमने वही concept use किया है, x minus x naught is equal to v naught cos theta naught into t. ओके, तो थीटा इसने कौन सा डिफाइन किया एंगल? थीटा ये वाला एंगल इधर से डिफाइन किया. ओके, यहाँ पे आपकी डायग्राम में यहाँ बना हुआ है, दिस इज थीटा.